have some exciting news. I'm getting ready to put this bulkhead back onto the chassis of my Series 3 Santana coil conversion project, but there's a hole that's in my way. It's this hole right here. It's a rust repair due to leakage of water that was common in this corner in these vehicles. It needs a panel and a reinforcement behind it. It's a fairly simple panel that needs to be hammer formed on plywood blocks. Here they are. That's the profile that runs on the side of every Series and Defender Land Rover. And so with these and a hammer, there is a simple panel to be made. Here's the other side where this repair has already been done. The flat panel that bends onto this pinch welded seam has been fabricated. There are 3 holes here. They hold the bracket that attaches the doorstop to the bulkhead. The sliding part of the doorstop is in the door. So this is a simple bracket. There are 3 holes. And behind them welded in is a 1/4 inch UNF nut. And because UNF threads are common on this vehicle, there's also a reinforcement behind that has to be fabricated separately. So I have to reproduce this on the other side. So in order to fill this hole, I need to make a repair panel that's going to look like something like this. This is a practice piece I made for the other side. So it's fairly straightforward. A flat piece of metal has to be bent over. The most important thing is to bend it in the correct direction. It's way too easy to get confused. All right, time to shrink and stretch. The blow has to be aimed close to the form. You have to resist the temptation to hit it on the edge and just bend it over. The shrinking stretching is taking place sort of against the form, so you got to hit close to the form. The edge of the hammer is right on it as I hit, and so I can start seeing it formed along the tool being the lower piece of plywood. It's something like putting on a sock. I'm not sure if it's a good analogy, but I'm not bending it. I'm getting it to follow the shape of the form underneath. A couple of words about hammer forming over a form or a tool, as I'll refer to it. So you have a tool underneath and you're bending. Well, it seems like that's what you're doing, and that's what you would be doing on a straight edge, and that's what a bending brake does. But on curves like this, you are shrinking the outside curves and stretching the inside curves. You are not just bending. And so here I was kind of bending. I went too fast and I ended up with too much thickness in this area because I didn't shrink it properly and didn't force the metal outward. I can feel this thickness with my fingers. And I ended up with a pleat, which I just flattened with a hammer. That's also hard to see, but that's not the desirable result. And most importantly, the curve is incorrect. with all of this thickness and the pleat that got pounded in here, there is extra thickness and incorrect shape. At the same time, when you stretch poorly on a form, you get tears. So here is a notch type thing where the metal just got torn. Because it was torn, it couldn't form the proper curve, and this crease is too sharp. So you gotta slowly and meticulously form the metal. Here is a close-up shot, and I hope you can see how it's beginning to stretch down along the tool instead of just being bent. I'm not bending it down. I'm not applying force on the edge here. I'm applying force in the downward direction right along the tool. Here along the edge of the tool where the corner is forming nicely. This is stretching, this is gradually shrinking, and again, not to belabor this point, but the force is applied downwards to pull the metal along the tool, not in this direction, nearly bending. We're close to done, I think. This stage may best be called planishing, smoothing out with many softer hammer blows. Only right here, right in this area, some shrinking remains to be done. Almost there. All right, time for a fitting. Yeah, I can see now that I took it off. There's a tiny bulge here that might need a little more work. But here's the difference between taking the time and not taking the time. These two were made on this form, so same piece of plywood. So when you don't take the time and you rush it, you get poor shrinkage. Shrinkage this way takes a while. There's excess thickness, and the curve is incorrect. There is kind of a bulge due to excess thickness. At the same time, where you have to shrink, like right here, you'll get a tear. And when it tears, it's going to create more of a 90-degree angle here instead of the proper curve. So in contrast, here there's the good curve, and you can see it on both sides because I took the time to stretch this into the bend of the tool of the form, and at the same time this curve will be much more correct because I don't have excess thickness from these pleats. You might see the flattened pleat in there. It may be hard to see on the video. So take your time. Here is the patch. The shape is fairly complicated. There was this triangular gap underneath that I'm also filling. It's why the factory doesn't have metal, probably because of how assembly was conducted back then, and this corner would have been in the way, but I'll fill it in. It'll make it stronger. So I have a lap on top, butt joint here, butt joint along the bottom, and this will be plug welded underneath. The triangle will be plug welded underneath. After the weld through primer dries, I'll be back. This is the reinforcement that needs to go in first. Time to get it situated in place. Go. Perfect. This area came out quite good. I got my doorstop attachment holes. The butt weld is always a challenge because it tends to pull in from heat issues, but this is pretty flat. I feel a little divot here. I'm afraid I may have ground too much. But this, of course, will be covered by the lower dash, so there will not be any body work on this, and it'll need insulation because it's the engine firewall. So good result here. After I fix the hole on the other side, it can go back to start building forward of it. So here we are working on this hole. This was a deep dent which I found when I stripped the paint off, and it was filled with body filler. So this needs new steel. The patch is pretty simple. Essentially a rectangle with weld-through primer already on the back. The bulkhead is back on a chassis. The bulkhead is rust repaired and modified. That's a major milestone for me on this project. I'm glad to reach this point. It's going to get more interesting because there will be a greater variety of systems to work on, like steering and clutch and brakes and electrical. So many things hang on this bulkhead on these vehicles. The next video will be about bulkhead supports with some steering issues on the driver's side because bulkhead support participates in that. This is the old bulkhead support. It can be sort of made to work here on the passenger side, but it won't work on the driver's side at all, so a new one will have to be fabricated. So, thanks for watching. I'll see you on my next video.